Prologue, the last strike. There was no roar of the crowd that could drown out the silence in her chest. Tori Nichols stood alone in the locker room of the Sekai Taikai Arena in Kyoto, her gi half unzipped, sweat glistening on her brow, hands clenched. The victory had come and gone like a storm, and yet something inside her remained still. The cheers, the flags, the gold-accented medals. She had done it. She had fought for something clean, something true. And yet, why don't I feel like I won? Behind her, a monitor played footage from the final match. She saw herself dodge, strike, parry, all clean. No tricks, no bribes, no silver. She had earned it this time. And still the guilt lingered, not from this fight but from before. The All Valley, the falsified win, the mask she wore for too long. Her reflection in the mirror looked older now, worn but calmer. The door creaked open. Robbie stood there with a bottle of water. "You okay?" Tori nodded. "Yeah," but they both knew it was a lie. Chapter 1. A New Country, the Same Shadow. Kyoto was colder than Tori expected. The winter wind crept beneath her jacket as she stepped off the train at Kyoto Station, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, Cobra Kai branded suitcase in tow. The platform buzzed with passengers, businessmen in gray suits, elderly women in silk scarves, students laughing in bursts of hurried Japanese. Everything was foreign, fast, alive. Beside her, Robbie exhaled in quiet awe. "Not exactly Reseda, huh?" "No," Tori said, adjusting her bag. "It's cleaner." He smirked, nudging her shoulder with his. She didn't smile back. They were here on invitation, one of 3 American duos selected to train and compete in a global exhibition tournament hosted by the Sai Taikai Committee. The same committee that had exposed Cobra Kai to the world, the same people who had in some way offered her a second chance. A second chance. The phrase echoed like an empty dojo. At their dormitory, a sleek, minimal building near the training center, they were greeted by a woman in a crisp black blazer who bowed low before leading them to their rooms. "This is where champions stay," she said in careful English. "But you are not champions yet." Tori noticed the plaque by the door. Room 3A, Nichols, Keene. Shared quarters. She paused, glancing sideways at Robbie, who raised his eyebrows innocently. "Guess we'll get good at not killing each other." "I've been practicing," she muttered, stepping inside. That night, Tori couldn't sleep. The paper-thin walls and foreign street sounds weren't the problem. It was the stillness. No arguments from her mom's bedroom. No dishes to wash. No Miguel Sam drama in the background. Just a silence that pressed in, dense and deliberate. She stood by the window in a white tank top, looking out over the small city. Neon signs hummed in kanji. Headlights swept through narrow streets. For a moment, she imagined herself as just another girl abroad. Young, ambitious, clean slate. But the shadow of Cobra Kai stretched long. She remembered Silver's voice, silky and poisonous. "You don't need to win with honor. You win because you're strong." But strength wasn't enough anymore, not after everything, not after the lies. Behind her, Robbie stirred. "You okay?" She didn't turn. "Yeah, just about the tournament?" "No," she whispered, "about who I am without it." Chapter 2. The Weight of the GI. Morning practice began before sunrise. The dojo was nestled in a bamboo grove just beyond the dormitory. Its structure was traditional, wooden floorboards, paper-paneled walls, polished beams darkened by time and discipline. Yet beneath the serene aesthetic, Tori could feel the tension rising like heat from the mat. She was one of the first to arrive. She bowed at the threshold as instructed and stepped inside. Her gi was stiff with starch, the emblem of the Sekai Taikai stitched in deep red thread over her chest. No Cobra Kai fangs, no memories of bloodied knuckles and concrete alleys, just a plain uniform and a sense of being naked in it. She stretched in silence, watching others trickle in, fighters from Brazil, Korea, South Africa, Norway. Each moved with quiet precision, nodding to one another, exchanging few words. Then came the girl in the indigo gi. Her movement was effortless, the way wind moved through leaves. She bowed. She took her place. She closed her eyes and breathed like someone who had never been afraid of losing. Tori stared too long. "You recognize her?" Robbie murmured, arriving beside her. "No. Should I?" "That's Zara Malik from London. Won European Youth Kumite 3 years straight. She's kind of legendary." Tori narrowed her eyes. Zara didn't look like a legend. She looked calm, too calm. "I don't care about her record," Tori said. Robbie smirked. "You sure? Because your jaw's tensing." The head instructor entered, an old Japanese man with a back straighter than any Tory had seen. He didn't speak. He simply raised a hand. Every student dropped to kneel in Seiza. The silence pressed down like gravity. Then, a single word, begin. By the end of the 2-hour training session, Tori's muscles burned. She hadn't felt this tested in months, not since Miyagi-Do's balanced stances and Eagle Fang's absurd hybrid drills. Here, the kata was sharper, cleaner, punishing in its elegance. It forced her to slow down, something she'd never done. Not really. You overcommit, came a voice behind her. Tori turned. Zara stood with a towel slung over one shoulder. Her dark eyes were unreadable. In your roundhouse? Zara continued. You push with anger, you get speed, but you lose balance. Thanks for the tip, Tori said dryly. It wasn't a tip, Zara replied. It was an observation. Tori felt her shoulders stiffen. Zara tilted her head. You fight like someone chasing ghosts. Before Tori could respond, Zara walked away. Back in the dorm, Tori slammed her locker shut. Robbie looked up from his notebook. She said something, didn't she? Tori didn't answer. She sat on the edge of her bed, hands in fists, the GI folded in her lap. The uniform weighed more now than it had that morning. Not from sweat, from shame. Chapter 3. Old Habits, New Fears. The next week passed in a blur of motion. Early mornings, grueling drills, sparring matches that blurred the line between test and trial. Tori moved through it all like a machine, absorbing each lesson, each correction, even when it bruised her pride. But she wasn't the same fighter who had trained under Terry Silver. That version of her would have snapped back, refused to listen, fought to dominate. This version wanted to understand. Still, old habits died hard. Every time she sparred with Zara, her hands moved a little too fast, her strikes a bit too sharp. She didn't want to fight dirty anymore, but the reflex was baked in, buried beneath years of survival. And Zara always noticed. You're not in the streets anymore, Zara said after one match, her British accent clipped and cold. Stop flinching like you're expecting someone to cheat. We're not your ghosts. Tori said nothing, but something cracked in her chest. In the evenings, Tori and Robbie walked the narrow alleys of Kyoto, neon signs humming overhead. He talked about school, how he was considering finishing his diploma online, about his mom, about his dad. Tori didn't talk much at all. One night, they stood by a quiet canal, the reflection of lanterns dancing on the water. You're different here, Robbie said softly. She looked away. You say that like it's a bad thing. It's not, he said. Just, it feels like you're fighting something besides the people on the mat. Tori took a breath. When I was a kid, I stole food from a vending machine because my mom hadn't eaten in 2 days. I broke a kid's nose in 7th grade because he laughed at her oxygen tank. I don't know how to not fight, Robbie. I don't know who I am without all that. Robbie was quiet. Then he said, maybe that's what this trip's for. She looked at him. To find out, he added. Back in the dorm, Tori stood in front of the mirror, her GI folded neatly on the bed behind her. She looked at her hands, calloused, scarred. Then she looked at her eyes, still fierce, but tired. She picked up a pen and opened a notebook, the one Robbie had given her before they left. The page was blank. She didn't know what to write, but she wrote one sentence anyway. If I don't figure out who I am, someone else will. Chapter 4. The Exhibition Match. The arena wasn't huge, nothing like the All-Valley Finals, but it was still more than Tori had ever faced outside California. Elevated seating curved around a polished hardwood floor, spectators filtering in beneath paper lanterns and LED screens. Banners in Japanese, English, and Korean scrolled overhead. Sekai Taikai International Youth Exhibition. The announcer's voice boomed through the sound system in 3 languages, cycling through names of fighters who'd already stepped onto the mat. Norway versus Thailand, Brazil versus Germany. The audience clapped politely, a different rhythm than American fans. Less tribal, more reserved. Tori paced backstage. Her GI felt tight across her shoulders. Sweat gathered at her spine before she'd even thrown a punch. The air was cooler here, more formal. No chants, no cheering squads, just expectation. The match card blinked to life above the arena floor. Match 6, USA, Nichols vs. South Korea. Tori took one last breath before stepping out. Min-jae was shorter, lean, compact. His eyes were calm but calculating. He bowed stiffly before the match began. Tori bowed in return. Then the bell rang and the storm began. Min-jae moved like water, circling, pivoting, avoiding contact. Tori had trained against aggression, against brute force. But this fighter? He was pure defense, a mirror. Her strikes landed on air, her footing constantly tested. For every punch she threw, he threw silence back. The first point was his, a spinning back kick, quick, clean, controlled. Tori stumbled, corrected, reset. Robbie's voice from the sideline was firm. Slow down, T. But the adrenaline was rushing now, not from fear, from frustration. She charged forward, faking high and sweeping low, only for Min-jae to spin away, using her own momentum against her. She barely stayed on her feet. The second point, her jaw clenched. Behind the referee, she caught sight of Zara watching from the gallery. Expressionless. She remembered Zara's words from earlier that week. Stop flinching like you're expecting someone to cheat. And suddenly, Tori saw what was happening. She was fighting a ghost again. Not Min-jae. She was fighting herself. She adjusted her stance, lowered her shoulders, let go of the anger, and moved from balance. Her next strike landed clean, right to the ribs. Her first point. Then came another, then a third, then the bell. Tori Nichols. She bowed, this time lower. She met Min-jae's eyes and saw, not resentment, but respect. Later, alone backstage, she sat in silence, unwrapping her hands. Zara appeared, towel over her shoulder. Better, Zara said, nodding once. That a compliment? Zara shrugged. It's a start. She walked away, and Tori smiled, just a little. Chapter 5. Ash and Echo. That night, Tori dreamed of fire. Not flames, but heat. Smoke curling through a broken apartment window. The crackle of static on an old TV. Her mother's strained voice, too weak to yell anymore. And silver, always silver, flashing like a blade in the dark. She woke up sweating, heart hammering. Robbie stirred in the other bed but didn't wake. Tori sat up, her body aching not from combat but from memory. In the early morning, she walked the path to the training hall alone. Kyoto was wrapped in fog. The stone lanterns along the trail blinked like fading stars, and the trees held their breath in winter stillness. Inside the empty dojo, she began kata drills slowly. Step, pivot, strike. Then again. Her breath formed clouds. Her muscles ached. But she didn't stop, because if she stopped moving, the ghosts might catch up. Later that day, during a break between sessions, she found herself in the common room with a cup of green tea she didn't really want. Zara sat nearby, cross-legged, reading a book in Japanese. Do you ever think about who you were before karate? Tori asked suddenly. Zara didn't look up. No, that girl is gone. Tori stared into her tea. I lied to win a tournament, she said. That made Zara look up. I was part of something toxic. Cobra Kai. Silver manipulated us. Paid off referees. Lied to me. Made me believe I earned something I didn't. Zara was quiet. I've never told anyone, Tori said, except Sensei LaRusso. And now you. Still, silence. Then Zara said, You know what ash is, Nichols? Burned wood? Zara shook her head. Ash is what's left after the fire ends. It's not the fire itself. It's not the fuel. It's the after, the truth. She stood, picking up her book. Maybe that's what you are now. Not the flame, not the destruction, just the after, and you get to decide what that means. That night, Tori finally called home. Her mother's voice was weak but steady. Is it beautiful there? Tori swallowed. Yeah, it's clean, cold, and feels like I'm doing something that matters. You always have, sweetheart, her mother whispered, even when it didn't look like it. Back in the dorm room, Robbie was waiting. You okay? I think, Tori said, slipping off her shoes. I'm starting to be. Chapter 6. The Arrival of Hawk. The American team had grown by one. He arrived with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, a lopsided grin on his face, and a mohawk dyed midnight blue. Miss me? Hawk asked, grinning as he spotted Tori and Robbie in the courtyard. Robbie chuckled and stood to meet him with a fist bump. I thought you swore off international travel after that Florida layover. Yeah, well, Hawk shrugged. Couldn't pass this up. Coach said Sekai Taikai needed another rep from our region. I got the call. Figured I'd bring some Eagle Fang spirit to the land of discipline and tea. Tori rolled her eyes. Glad to see ego doesn't get smaller at high altitudes. Hawk threw his hands up. Hey, some things are eternal. It felt strange seeing Hawk here. Back in the valley, they had circled each other like wary wolves, sometimes allies, sometimes rivals. He'd changed. They all had. But seeing someone from back then pulled old memories into sharp focus. He's nervous, Robbie said. He hides it well, Tori replied. Not from us. The bell rang. The match began, and Hawk held his own for the first minute. He blocked the first two strikes, countered with a clean side kick, and spun into a solid back elbow. But the Brazilian fighter was precise, faster than expected. A sweep, a takedown, a point lost. Hawk reset, jaw tight. He came in stronger, landing a strike to the shoulder. A point. Then another. He started to find his rhythm. But as the pace quickened, so did his recklessness. One kick came too wide. His opponent saw the opening and seized it. A sweep. Hawk hit the mat hard. The bell rang. Match over. He sat in silence afterward, eyes on the floor. Tori approached quietly, holding a cold bottle of water. "Hey," she said, offering it. He took it without looking up. "That was not my best." "No," she agreed, "but it wasn't your worst either." He gave a wry laugh. "Is that supposed to be comforting?" Tori shrugged. "You're not in the valley anymore. We're not fighting to win trophies or settle rivalries. This isn't about beating someone else. It's about beating the version of yourself that used to fight for all the wrong reasons." Hawk looked up. "You sound like LaRusso." Tori smiled. "That scares me too." That night, the three of them sat together on the temple steps, watching paper lanterns drift along the river in the distance. "You think we'll ever really be done with it?" Hawk asked. "The past?" Tori didn't answer for a long time. "No," she said finally, "but I think we can stop letting it define us." Chapter 7. Hidden Scars. The room was smaller than she expected. Just 4 white walls, a camera on a tripod, and a plain wooden chair. Tori sat stiffly, hands on her knees. Across from her, a woman in a sleek blazer checked her notes. She spoke with a clipped British accent, precise and deliberate. "This is a recorded interview for the Sekai Taikai Athlete Archive," she explained. "Purpose, profiling the personal journeys of key competitors. You may decline any question." Tori nodded once. "Let's just get it over with." The first few questions were easy. Name, age, home dojo, style. Then, "You've trained in both Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do traditions. Can you describe the difference?" Tori hesitated. "Cobra Kai taught me how to survive. Miyagi-Do taught me why to. And which matters more to you now?" "The why." A pause. The interviewer adjusted her glasses. "There's been controversy in the past. Cobra Kai's former leadership, John Kreese, Terry Silver, were accused of unethical practices. You were a student under both. Is that correct?" Tori's stomach tightened. She could say nothing. She could lie, or she could finally speak. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I trained under them. And yes, I knew things weren't right. I just didn't know how to get out." "Were you aware of the bribed referees at the All Valley?" Tori exhaled slowly. "I found out after. I wanted to believe I'd won fair. But when I learned the truth, it broke something in me." "Why didn't you come forward publicly?" "Because no one would have believed me. Because I was afraid. Because I thought if I admitted it, everything I fought for would be meaningless." She swallowed hard. "But it wasn't meaningless. I kept fighting after. I made different choices. That's what matters." The interviewer looked up. "You're saying your victory was illegitimate?" Tori nodded. "It was." Another pause. The woman tapped her pen once against the clipboard. "Thank you," she said. "That will be all." Tori left the room shaking. The hallway was quiet, cold. She walked past the reflection of herself in a glass door. White GI, black belt, eyes red but steady. And she didn't look away. That night, as the sky poured rain against the dorm windows, Robbie joined her outside under the overhang. "You told the truth," he said softly. "I don't know if it changes anything. It changes you." She glanced sideways. "Do you think I'm still that person?" He shook his head. "No, but I think she's still in there, just not in control anymore." They stood in silence a while longer. Then Tori whispered, "I feel like I burned down everything I used to be." Robbie took her hand. "Good," he said. "Now you can build something better." Chapter 8. Zara's Challenge. It was late afternoon when the message came. A folded slip of parchment slipped under Tori's door. Old school. No sender listed, but the brushstrokes were unmistakably Zara's. One match, off record, no spectators, shrine courtyard, sunset. Tori read it twice. She felt something tighten in her chest, not fear, but something close. Anticipation, maybe? Or something older. The same gut instinct that once warned her to keep a pocket knife hidden under her mattress, or never turn her back during a street match. This wasn't about proving anything. It was about understanding. The shrine courtyard lay deep within the temple grounds, tucked behind a veil of red-leafed maples and weather-worn stone torii gates. It wasn't part of the official tournament facilities, just sacred space where warriors came to reflect, not perform. Zara stood waiting. She wore a black guy, her sleeves rolled to the elbow, her expression unreadable. Her short hair caught the dying light and turned silver. "You came," she said. Tori stepped forward. "Of course I did." Zara bowed. "No points, no judges. This is not about who wins." Tori mirrored the bow. "Then what is it about?" "Control," Zara replied, her voice low. "Let's begin." They circled slowly. No ceremony, no crowd. Just two fighters, years of pain behind each stance. Zara struck first, a sweeping roundhouse kick, sharp and efficient. Tori blocked, pivoted, countered with a low hook. The clash echoed through the trees. No hesitation, no room for it. This wasn't Cobra Kai's brutality, nor Miyagi-Do's patience. It was something else, something that lived in the space between instinct and restraint. Zara pressed forward. Tori adjusted. Every blow they traded was a conversation. Rage and regret, guilt and growth, trauma buried beneath muscle memory. And then Zara stopped. Tori froze mid-strike, fist drawn back. The stillness was total. Zara looked her in the eye. "You could have hit me." "I know," Tori replied, "but you didn't. I chose not to." Zara nodded once. "That's all I needed to see." They sat together afterward beneath the maple trees, sweat cooling in the evening breeze. Zara passed Tori a small wooden flask. "It's just water," she smirked. "Relax." Tori drank. "Why me?" she asked finally. "Why this match?" "Because you've changed," Zara said. "But I needed to know if that change was real or just a mask." "And?" "You chose restraint over ego, mercy over pride. That is not something the old Tori Nichols could have done." Tori laughed under her breath. "She's still in there. She always will be, but now she's not the one leading the fight." As the last light faded, Tori stood and offered her hand. Zara took it. And for the first time since arriving in Japan, Tori felt, not finished, not healed, but whole. Chapter 9, Flashpoint. It hit the internet before she even woke up. A low-quality clip, a grainy leak, Tori's voice half-muted, echoing from a conference hall speaker system. "Yes, I trained under them. And yes, I knew things weren't right. I just didn't know how to get out." By the time she checked her phone, it was everywhere. Tori Nichols was trending. A flood of reactions followed. Comments, reposts, speculative threads, breakdown videos from karate vloggers dissecting every word. Some called her brave, some called her a liar, some said she was trying to erase her past, some said she was finally owning it. In the dining hall, eyes followed her. Whispers trailed behind every step. Robbie stood beside her as always, but even he couldn't shield her from what she saw on every screen. Her confession, torn out of context, looping endlessly. "Someone leaked the archive feed," he said, jaw tight. "That was supposed to be private." Tori gave a dry laugh. Privacy's just another word for silence these days. That afternoon, Master Kim gathered the international team captains for an emergency meeting. Tori sat quietly as one of the Japanese officials read aloud from a prepared statement. "Miss Nichols' comments have caused significant disruption to the image of Sekai Taikai's history. While we do not condone the actions of her former instructors, we are concerned about the perception of political agendas interfering with the sport." Zara stood up. "With all due respect," she said coolly, "truth isn't political. It's necessary." Another official raised a hand. "Nevertheless, such statements reflect poorly on the harmony we strive for." Zara turned to Tori. "Would you like to respond?" Tori hesitated, then stood. "My name is Tori Nichols. I was a champion at the All Valley tournament. That title was compromised. Not because I didn't train hard, but because people in power decided winning was more important than honor." She looked around the room. "I stayed quiet for too long. I let fear speak louder than my conscience. But I'm not that person anymore. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't need applause. I just want to move forward, and do it honestly." Silence followed. Then a few quiet nods, and no more protests. Outside, Tori sat alone on the temple steps, eyes closed against the cold wind. Zara found her there. Robbie joined them a moment later. "You made the right call," Robbie said. Tori shrugged. "Feels more like standing still in a storm." "But you're still standing," Zara said. "That counts for more than you know." Later that night, a message came through. From Chosen. Just 4 words. "Proud of your courage." She read it twice. And for the first time in days, she smiled. Chapter 10. The Last Test. The arena lights were lower than usual, muted, almost reverent, like the space itself understood the gravity of what was coming. Tori waited behind the curtain, fists wrapped, heartbeat steady. The Sekai Taikai final stage was single elimination. One match, win or go home. Her name echoed across the loudspeakers, representing the United States, Tori Nichols. She stepped out to a thunder of applause and an unexpected chill. It wasn't the crowd, it was the name that followed. Her opponent, representing South Korea, Kim Da-eun. Not the younger Kim students, her. Tori froze for half a second, then kept walking. Kim Da-eun was the heir of a brutal style. Daughter of legacy, master of pressure points, speed, and psychological warfare. Worse than that, she was familiar. They had crossed paths before, barely during Cobra Kai's expansion. Da-eun had watched her spar like a scientist observing a flawed experiment. Cold, dissecting. And now, here she was, smiling with perfect calm, as if nothing in the world could surprise her. The bell rang. Tori struck first, a quick jab to test range. Da-eun slipped around it and countered with an open palm feint that nearly took Tori's balance. The first round was a chess game played at lightning speed, attack, evade, probe, adjust. Da-eun didn't overpower, she unraveled. Everything Tori threw was answered before it landed. Every rhythm she found was broken the next second. By round 2, sweat stung Tori's eyes. Her shoulder ached from a parried kick. She was losing ground, and worse, doubt was creeping in. That old voice returned. You don't belong here. Then she heard another voice. Sam's. From a sparring session months ago. You fight like someone waiting to be hurt. She denied it at the time, angry, defensive. But Sam had been right. Tori had always fought with her back half turned, with fear of becoming her past. And in trying to avoid it, she'd let it control her. She dropped into a lower stance, breathed deep, and remembered what Johnny once told her. You're not your worst day. You're who you choose to be after it. Da-eun came in for the finish. Tori didn't retreat. She met the charge full on, parried high, spun low, and drove a sharp palm strike into Da-eun's core. The shock of contact, a stumble, a brief, beautiful stillness. Point, match, silence. Then, the roar of the crowd. Tori didn't smile. She didn't collapse. She just stood still and let it wash over her. Because this time there was no doubt. She had won. Clean, honest, hers. Da-eun rose slowly, wiped a trickle of blood from her mouth and nodded. Not the same girl I saw in Los Angeles, she said in clipped English. Tori offered a hand. I'm not her anymore. Chapter 11, Silver's Ghost. It started with a symbol, a stylized cobra coiled tighter than before. No fangs, no name. Just a logo printed on glossy flyers left across dojos in Okinawa and Seoul. And a message, strike first, strike clean, strike true. Tori saw one on the mirror of the women's locker room after training. Someone had taped it right over the Sekai Taikai crest. She tore it down, jaw clenched. Robbie frowned when she showed him. That slogan, it's too familiar. Zara joined them. It's Cobra Kai, she confirmed, stripped of the name but not the intent. The rumors came next. A new school opening in Bangkok. A private financier offering equipment grants to dojos willing to teach a more aggressive style. Whispers of a return to dominance under a different mask. Tori did the digging herself. The name behind it all? Matthew Crane, an alias, but not a random one. Matthew was Terry Silver's middle name. It's not him, Chosen told her via encrypted video call. Silver is gone, for good. Tori narrowed her eyes, but his money isn't. Chosen nodded once. Someone with access is trying to revive what he built. Watered down, maybe. But the poison is still there. She leaned forward. Then I need to stop it. You need to finish what you came for. Win this. Stand for something better. That is how we kill ghosts. Still, the fear crept in. Late at night, between matches, in the silence between words. Was it possible Cobra Kai, its worst version, would always come back? Just as one face fell, another would rise behind it, same ideology, different smile. She stared at the flyer again. Not angry, not afraid. Just tired. Then she set it on fire, watched it curl to ash in a temple brazier. I don't care if they bring back every slogan, every belt, every dojo, she told Robbie. I know what I am now, and what I'm not. He looked at her, proud. You're not running. Not this time. That week, Tori stood in front of every athlete at the tournament and addressed them. No cameras, no filters. If someone offers you a shortcut to victory, ask what they want in return. If someone says you have to hurt people to win, ask why they're not stepping into the ring themselves. She let that settle. I came from Cobra Kai, but I don't represent it. I represent every kid who had to fight their way out. And I'm not going back. Chapter 12, Tokyo Offer. Tokyo shimmered in winter rain. Neon lights reflected in puddles. Vending machines blinked like tiny temples on every corner. The dojo was nestled on the second floor of an old building in Setagaya, above a tea shop that smelled of matcha and dust. Tori bowed as she entered. The place was quiet, immaculate. No mats out, no students present. Just a man waiting by the shrine wall. Sensei Daigo Shibata, former world kata champion, now head of one of Japan's most respected traditional schools. He greeted her with a single word, Nichols. She had been summoned, not invited, to observe his teaching. The email had been brief. The tone? Somewhere between recruitment and trial. Zara had arranged the introduction quietly. "You'll hate him at first," she'd said, "but if he sees fire in you, he'll give you the forge." They trained in silence for an hour. Daigo watched her kata, offered no praise, only corrections. Precision over power, flow over fire. Her American instinct fought it. But she adjusted. By the end of the session, he spoke again. "You are aggressive, but coachable." Tori raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to be a compliment?" "It is supposed to be true." He stepped forward. "I am opening a youth academy in Sapporo. New structure, new discipline. But I want someone who remembers chaos, someone who survived it." He let that hang. "I want you." The job was full-time, room and board covered, a salary, the chance to design her own training modules, for girls specifically, many from broken homes. But there were rules, no public statements, no past affiliations discussed, and no karate tournaments for 2 years. "You will teach," Daigo said, "not perform." She walked the Shibuya streets that night, letting the city's noise replace her thoughts. Robbie was still in Okinawa training with Johnny and Daniel for a demo series. Zara had flown to Paris. She was alone, but not lost. She called Robbie anyway. "That's huge," he said, "but you'd be off the map." She nodded. "That's the part that scares me and excites me." He paused. "You won't disappear. You'll build something." Back at her capsule hotel, she stared at the ceiling for a long time and remembered Sam's words during their last sparring match. "You don't owe anyone your past, but you owe yourself your future." She picked up the pen and signed. Chapter 13, Ghost Lessons. The dojo in Sapporo was colder than she expected. Not just the air, but the silence. The students, 8 girls, ages 11 to 16, bowed stiffly when Tori entered. Some avoided eye contact. Others stared too long, challenging without words. She remembered being like that. Daigo had given her full control of this class. "Make them sharp," he'd said, "but do not break them." Her first instinct was Cobra Kai, pressure, pain, proof through dominance. But Tori had learned better, so instead, she began with a story. "I was like you," she told them, "angry, always ready to fight. I thought the world was a ring and I had to win or be crushed." She paused, and I was wrong. There was no applause, but the silence shifted. One girl, Nana, leaned forward just slightly. The seed had been planted. Over the next week, Tori mixed drills with conversation. Not therapy, just truth. She didn't flinch from her past. But she didn't glamorize it either. "You can fight for something," she said on day 3, "or you can just fight. Only one of those gets you anywhere." Some of the girls began to stay after class. One asked about her championship medals. Another brought a handmade drawing, Tori in a jai, standing between fire and wind. For the first time, Tori felt what Johnny must have felt with her, a chance to pass it on. Then Nana came to her after evening practice. "Sensei," she said quietly, "there's a new group in my neighborhood. All black uniforms. They say they teach Cobra style." Tori froze. "What did they say exactly?" "They said they were reborn, that their Cobra sheds its skin but never forgets the kill." Tori's jaw clenched. "Strike clean. Strike true." The words from the flyer in Tokyo came back. She knelt in front of Nana. "Listen to me. You stay away from them. Don't spar. Don't join. Can you promise me that?" Nana nodded, eyes wide. But Tori knew that voice. The lure, the promise of power. That night she emailed Daigo. "We have a problem. It's bigger than I thought." And beneath that, in smaller letters, requesting permission to investigate. No response came that night. But when she arrived at the dojo the next morning, a man in a dark coat was waiting by the entrance. He handed her a folded envelope and left without a word. Inside, a name, a dojo address in Osaka, and a note from Daigo. "Permission granted. Be careful, Nichols. The Cobra's fangs may be hidden, but they're still venomous." Chapter 14, Osaka Echoes. Osaka pulsed with energy, older, rougher than Tokyo. Grit beneath the glass, music in every alleyway, and shadows behind every smile. Tori moved through it like a ghost. She wore street clothes, no guy, no Cobra Kai colors, her hair tucked under a beanie, her steps silent. She wasn't here to fight. She was here to... The dojo was hidden behind a noodle shop in Naniwa Ward. No sign, no name, just a black sticker on the sliding door. A stylized snake wrapped around a triangle, the same one she'd seen in Tokyo. She slipped inside during an open sparring session. What she saw chilled her. The room was full of teenagers, some barely 15, all dressed in black. The style was familiar, fast, brutal, efficient, but colder. There were no shouts, no camaraderie, just pain and silence. One boy cried out after a harsh leg sweep. The sensei barked, "Stand up or stay weak." Tori's fists clenched. She remembered that tone, that doctrine. It wasn't Silver's voice, but it was his echo. She stayed through the whole session, observed, learned, noticed one name on the registration clipboard near the door. Rei Tanaka, assistant instructor. She recognized it. Zara had once mentioned a Tanaka who trained briefly in California. Rumors said he'd been part of Cobra Kai's underground expansion before the dojo was shut down. Now he was here, running the show. That night, Tori tracked him to a rooftop bar near Dotonbori. She waited until he was alone. "You took a rotten tree," she said as she stepped out of the shadows and tried to plant it in new soil. Rai turned slowly. "Nichols," his voice was low, amused. "I wondered when you'd come. They'd fight." "Not yet." They spoke first. He laid it out plainly. "Cobra Kai is not a brand. It's a need. People are still afraid, still angry. They want something to follow. I just give it a name." "You give them fear," Tori spat. "You give them your poison." "And you, Sensei Nichols? What do you give them?" Tori stepped forward, eyes burning. "Something I had to earn, a way out." Ray smiled. "Not everyone wants out." Then he leaned close. "Some want revenge, on the world, on people like you." Back in her hotel, she sent Daigo the report. She expected silence. Instead, a reply: "Pull back. Osaka is not your war yet. Your war is training the next you." But Tori couldn't forget the boy who cried out on the mat, and the phrase Ray had whispered before leaving. The tournament was the beginning, but what comes next is the culling. Chapter 15, Flashbacks and Forward. Tori hadn't meant to fall asleep, but the exhaustion caught up with her. The cold Osaka rain, the tension of restraint, the ache of withheld violence, it all conspired. She drifted off in the corner of her room, hoodie pulled over her eyes, and in her dreams, the past found her. The old Cobra Kai dojo. She walked through its skeleton. Dim light, faint smell of sweat and bleach, broken mirrors, blood on the mats. She saw herself, 17, fists raw, pride fresh and sharp like a blade. She was staring down Samantha LaRusso in her mind. No rules, no apologies. Silver stood in the shadows, smiling. Behind him, Kreese. Behind them both, nothing, no future. Just an endless fight. And in the dream, Tori did something she hadn't done then. She turned her back, walked out. She woke with a gasp. The storm outside had passed, but her pulse hadn't slowed. For a moment, she almost reached for her old gi, folded at the bottom of her bag. But instead, she reached for her notebook. "Why do I fight?" She stared at the question, then answered, "So no one else has to become what I was." The next morning, she returned to Sapporo. Daigo said nothing about her report, but during warm-up, he placed a hand briefly on her shoulder. "Sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones who walk away from a war," he said. Tori nodded. "But the real ones come back for others." She doubled down on training her girls. Added self-defense techniques, not just kata. Introduced drills about awareness, empathy, balance. Some of the traditionalists at the larger dojo raised eyebrows, but Daigo supported her. And then one afternoon, Nana approached again. "They tried to recruit my cousin," she said. "The Black Cobra Group." Tori's jaw tightened. "Did she say yes?" "No, but they said something else." She handed Tori a flyer. Just a symbol this time. The triangle snake. But scrawled across it in rough kanji, "The true tournament is coming." Tori folded the paper slowly. Something deeper was happening. A second generation of Cobra Kai. Not just reborn, but reorganized. It wasn't just about fighting anymore. It was about control. And she had a feeling Rei Tanaka wasn't acting alone. Chapter 16. Allies in the Ashes. Tori hesitated before sending the message. It had been over a year since she last spoke to him. Not since the Valley Finals. Not since they'd both walked away from the chaos in different directions, her towards something unknown, him back into the fold of his rebuilt life. But this wasn't about old wounds. This was about a new war. She typed, "Hawk, I need your help," just that, simple, clean. The reply came within an hour. Where and when? They met in Kyoto. Neutral ground. He wore a black denim jacket, his signature mohawk shorter now, dyed midnight blue. His face was older, more calm, but his eyes still burned with curiosity and adrenaline. They greeted each other like fighters. No hugs, just nods. And understanding. They grabbed ramen in a quiet corner of the city and got to the point. Tori slid the flyer across the table. New Cobra Kai, not Silver's version, something worse. Younger, hiding in plain sight. Hawk frowned as he studied it. I've seen this logo before. Online, some martial arts forum, people whispering about neo-dojos with no masters. Tori leaned forward. Can you trace it? Hawk nodded slowly. I know someone who can. They spent the next 2 days digging through underground forums and martial arts blogs. Most were noise. But then they hit something real. A thread in an obscure European fight board. A photo. 3 teens in black jizz. In the background, a banner with the triangle snake. Location tagged, Budapest. Hawk whistled. They're going global. Tori's stomach turned. This isn't just a cult dojo, she muttered. It's a movement. Late that night, they walked along the Kamo River. For a while, they said nothing. Then Hawk broke the silence. I always thought you'd disappear, he said. Not like dead, just ghost mode. Tori smirked. I tried. Didn't stick. He paused. You're good at this, you know. Leadership. She raised an eyebrow. You saying you'd follow me into this fight? Maybe. Then more softly. I think a lot of us would. She stopped walking. The river glinted under the moon. There it was again. The weight. The choice. Not just to fight, but to lead. Tori looked over at him. If we do this, it's not just dojo stuff anymore. These people, they're building something dangerous. It's deeper than tournaments. Hawk smiled grimly. Then we stop them before they finish building it. She nodded. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel alone. Chapter 17. Cold Trail in Budapest. The plane touched down under a steel-gray sky. Budapest in late November was all wind and whisper, cold cobblestones, ancient bridges, and the weight of centuries watching. Tori adjusted her coat as she stepped into the terminal. Hawk was beside her, scanning the crowd like a soldier on patrol. They moved light, no weapons, no visible gear, just instincts and history. The address from the photo had been vague. A martial arts club listed under a corporate shell company. Nothing on the building's facade suggested anything unusual. But the inside told another story. It was in the basement of an old theater. No signs, no reception. Just a narrow corridor that opened into a space with high concrete walls and fluorescent lights. A makeshift dojo. 5 students were training in silence, quick, fluid strikes with zero ceremony. All wore black jis. No patches, no names. Tori stepped inside. The room stopped. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. Not Rai, but someone older. A woman. She had sharp cheekbones, a burn scar across her jaw, and a stance that spoke volumes. Former soldier, no doubt. She sized Tori and Hawk up in an instant. You're far from home, she said in lightly accented English. We're not tourists, Hawk replied. I gathered. Tori held out the flyer. We've seen this symbol in Osaka, in Kyoto, and now here. You training these kids for something? Or are you just building soldiers for a war you didn't start? The woman smiled faintly. I'm building survivors. This world doesn't reward weakness. You should understand that. Tori's jaw clenched. I do. That's why I left that path. The woman tilted her head. Then why are you walking it again? She turned to her students and snapped her fingers. They resumed training. Violent, efficient drills. Tori watched closely. No anger, no ego, just programming. That was the most dangerous kind. Hawk whispered, These kids don't even blink. Tori nodded. Because they're not learning to fight, they're learning to obey. Before leaving, the woman said one final thing. You're not the only ones hunting ghosts. Be careful which ones you awaken. They left without a fight. But the silence that followed them back into the city felt heavier than a dozen matches. Back at their hotel, Hawk threw his jacket on the bed and ran a hand through his hair. She's not working alone, he said. That setup down there? Funding, discipline, someone's backing this. Tori pulled out her notebook. She flipped to a page labeled Suspects. Names were circled, and one stood out. Kim Dayoon, Chapter 18, A Whisper from Seoul. Seoul was a city of contrast, neon and silence, tradition and speed. Tori had never been this far from home before, but something about the cold precision of the city reminded her of the dojo. Control behind chaos. She and Hawk had barely checked into their modest guest house in the Hongdae district when they got a message. Rooftop. Midnight. Alone. Attached was a GPS pin. Hawk scowled. It's always rooftops with these people. Tori shrugged. Better than basements. The rooftop overlooked a maze of alleys and blinking street signs. At exactly midnight, a woman stepped out from the shadows. She wore all black, no symbols, no weapon in hand. But her posture was unmistakable. Cobra Kai, refined and ruthless. Kim Da-eun, Tori said. The woman didn't deny it. You're bolder than I expected, Kim replied. Her voice was cool, measured. You trained under Silver, Tori said. You're behind this. Kim gave a faint smile. I trained beside him. That's different. Hawk stepped forward. Why start this again? Cobra Kai is dead. No, Kim said calmly. Silver was a symptom. Cobra Kai is an ideology. You Americans gave it a name. We've lived it for centuries. Tori's fists clenched. And you're brainwashing kids to carry out your fight. They're not children, Kim snapped. They're warriors, forged by a broken world. You of all people should understand. I do, Tori said, which is why I won't let them become what we were. Kim's eyes narrowed. You think you can stop this with will alone? We're in 10 countries now, hundreds of students, and more coming. The wind picked up across the rooftop. Lights shimmered far below. You had promise, Kim said quietly, but you chose sentiment. You'll lose. No, Tori said. I chose people. Kim walked past her without a fight. I'll see you at the tournament. Then, as she disappeared into the stairwell, she said one final thing. Zara sends her regards. Back in the hotel, Hawk stared at Tori. She knew about Zara? Tori sat heavily on the bed. That means she knows about everything. She opened her notebook. At the top of a new page, she wrote, War is coming, but I'm not fighting for a dojo. I'm fighting for them. The ones still learning how to stand. The ones we used to be, she underlined it once, then turned to Hawk. We go home. We need allies. Chapter 19, The Gathering Storm. They landed in LA just after dawn. The California sky stretched wide and blue, but Tori felt no comfort in it. She knew what lay ahead. Battles that wouldn't take place on mats or within tournaments, but in choices, loyalties, and futures that hung by threads. They had no official army. Just history. But that was a start. First, they found Dimitri. He was in grad school now, studying robotics at Caltech. Still lanky, still brilliant. But his eyes carried the weight of too many fractured friendships. When they told him about Kim Da-eun, his face went pale. She's militarizing martial arts, he said. This isn't Cobra Kai. This is insurgency. That's why we need your help, Hawk said. Not to fight, to see. Dimitri hesitated, then nodded. I'll do what I can, but if this goes global, you'll need more than brains and bruises. Tori nodded. That's why we're not done recruiting. Next came Miguel. He was harder to find. Working at a community center near Santa Fe Springs, teaching self-defense to underprivileged teens. He didn't talk much when he saw Tori, just hugged her. They told him everything. About Budapest, about Seoul, about Kim. He shook his head slowly. I thought this was over. So did I, Tori said, but we can't ignore it. Not again. Miguel looked away. I promised my mom no more fights. Tori placed a hand on his shoulder. This isn't a fight, it's a stand. He gave a long breath. Then, count me in. They debated telling Samantha. In the end, it was Sam who found them. She walked into the old Miyagi-Do grounds one evening while they were training. Same firm step, same guarded eyes. I heard you were back, she said to Tori. I figured you would. I also heard you're building something. Against them. Tori said nothing. Sam nodded. Good. I want in. There were no apologies exchanged, only purpose. By the weekend, the team was forming. Hawk, Dimitri, Miguel, Sam, Tori, even Devin joined, a fierce, focused presence who had grown into her own style since the fall of Silver's Cobra Kai. They trained at night, not to win points, to protect, to prepare. One night, as they packed up gear, Miguel approached Tori. You think we're ready? She shook her head. No, but we're willing. That counts for something. He smiled. Feels like old times. Tori looked out over the valley. No, she said. This time, we finish it. Chapter 20, The Invitation. The envelope arrived 2 days later. No return address, no name, just a black wax seal pressed into the shape of a coiled cobra. Tori sliced it open with a pocket knife. Inside, a single card printed on thick parchment. Invictus, the tournament beyond borders. For those who do not yield, date February, location disclosed upon acceptance. Format, full contact elimination, only the strong may enter. Each competitor must be chosen. This is not a game. This is war beneath the lights. Beneath that, a signature. Katie Miguel leaned over her shoulder. Invictus? Hawk frowned. Sounds like a villain's TED Talk. Sam turned the card over. There was a QR code etched into the corner, barely visible. Dimitri scanned it on his phone, a loading screen, then a location. Hong Kong. Tori closed her eyes. "This is it," she whispered. "This is where they're unveiling their new Cobra Kai to the world." Sam nodded. "So we go. We fight." Miguel looked uncertain. "You think this is just a tournament? What if it's a trap?" Tori stared out the window. "It doesn't matter. Either way, we're not running." They spent the next 10 days training like never before. Split shifts, no wasted movement, drills under pressure, strategy. They sparred each other ruthlessly. No soft punches, no emotional hand-holding. Every bruise was a badge. Every sweat-drenched night a step closer to control. For Tori, it was more than survival. It was vindication. Not for her past, but for the girl who once had no choice. The night before their flight, Johnny Lawrence showed up. He brought beer, sarcasm, and a battered gym bag full of protective gear. "You kids heading into a meat grinder," he said, nodding at the invitation card. "You better bring more than nostalgia." Tori gave him a half smile. "We've got grit, and we've got each other." Johnny looked at her long and hard, then nodded. "Good, that's more than we ever had." They left for Hong Kong the next morning. No media coverage, no fame, just legacy on the line, and the cold whisper of war. Chapter 21. Arrival in the East Hong Kong greeted them with haze and neon. Towers of glass loomed like sentinels over a restless city. Somewhere in its shadows, Cobra Kai was preparing to rise again. Their hotel wasn't luxury, strategic, discreet, arranged by someone Miguel called a friend of a friend from his time in Mexico. The lobby was marble and silence, with no questions asked at check-in. Tori didn't sleep. The next morning, a car arrived. No license plate, no driver visible through the tinted glass. Inside, a single note awaited them. "You are not late. You are watched." Tori folded it without comment. They drove in silence, up winding roads through narrow alleys, finally arriving at a converted monastery outside the city. Stone walls, steel doors, and guards wearing black sashes marked with a silver cobra. Inside the gates, the tournament was already alive. They weren't the only team. Fighters from Brazil, Turkey, South Korea, even Morocco. Dojos and street legends. Old names and new threats. Each one had come with purpose. Each one carried scars. And somewhere among them, Zara Malik. Tori spotted her near the reflecting pool. Zara hadn't changed much. Still quiet, still razor-sharp, still moved like a ghost in silk. But something in her eyes had hardened. Zara met Tori's gaze with a faint nod, then turned and walked away without a word. "She saw you," Sam said. "She didn't even blink." "She knows we're here," Tori replied. That was her way of saying she's watching. "And if she's watching," Hawk murmured, "so is Kim Daen." Tori looked toward the horizon. There was no audience, no commentary. This was the kind of fight that existed in the bones in the whispers of wind between fists. No trophies, just survival. That night, the roster was posted. Elimination Round 1, Miguel Diaz vs. Haruto Senzai, Kyoto Dragons. Samantha LaRusso vs. Camila Reyes, El Tigre, Argentina. Eli Moskowitz vs. Victor Dobrev, Iron Fist Sofia. Tori Nichols vs. Zara Malik, unaffiliated. Tori's hand tightened. Sam read the name twice. "You're fighting her first?" Tori nodded slowly. Guess she didn't just come to watch. The moon was full that night, and in the courtyard below, fighters sharpened their limbs like blades. But Tori? She just stood alone in the dark, remembering every moment that had brought her here. Chapter 22. Tori vs. Zara. The courtyard was lit by torches. No stadium lights, no fanfare, just fire and stone and silence. Tori stepped barefoot into the ring. Her eyes adjusted to the dim glow, but her mind was sharp, calm, every breath measured. Zara Malik was already there. She wore black. No insignia, no markings. She looked neither eager nor angry, just ready. A hush fell over the fighters watching from the shadows. The referee raised a hand. "Begin." Zara struck first. A blur of speed, low sweep, rising elbow, high feint. Tori dodged and countered, not with force but with memory. She'd studied Zara once, watched her fight in Seoul, knew her rhythm. But Zara had changed. She wasn't dancing anymore. She was hunting. Minutes passed like hours. Their movements echoed. Strike, shift, slide, break. Tori's ribs screamed from a spinning kick. Zara's wrist bled from a deflected block. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. In the third exchange, Zara trapped Tori against the pillar. A quick knee to the stomach followed by a palm thrust to the throat, but Tori caught her wrist, locked, twisted, flipped Zara into the stone. A gasp rippled through the watchers. Zara landed hard, but when she stood, she smiled. "You're not Cobra Kai anymore," she said softly. Tori blinked. Her guard dropped a half-inch. Zara stepped forward. "That's why I came. I wanted to see if you were still fighting for something that wasn't yours." Tori's voice came low. "And?" Zara nodded. "You're not." The match resumed, but slower now. Mutual, like a test passed, not a truce, not friendship, but understanding. Tori took the final point with a clean heel hook that sent Zara to one knee. Zara tapped the mat, and Tori helped her up. As the referee raised Tori's hand, Zara leaned close and whispered, "Kim has more than fighters. She has generals. You'll need allies, even the ones you used to call rivals." Then she stepped back and disappeared into the night. Later, alone on the monastery rooftop, Tori watched the moon drift past the clouds. She didn't feel victorious. She felt seen, for the first time in a long time. Chapter 23, Miguel's Challenge. The fight was scheduled at noon, but Miguel had been ready since sunrise. He watched the courtyard fill again, fighters in silence, spectators leaning just forward enough to feel tension crackle through the humid Hong Kong air. Haruto Sensei stood across the ring, young, clean lines, a GI with Kyoto dragons embroidered in gold. His face betrayed nothing, but his eyes, they burned. Miguel took a breath and stepped forward. He didn't care about the name embroidered on a uniform. He'd faced champions, bullies, and broken men. But something about Haruto felt calculated, engineered. He moved like a theory of violence. The match opened with speed. Haruto struck first, blinding jab, fluid twist, rising back kick. Miguel dodged and countered a hook, low kick, quick angle change. It wasn't flash, it was chess at 20 miles an hour. And Haruto was good. Too good. By round 2, Miguel was trailing. Haruto didn't just attack, he adapted. Every counter Miguel threw, the kid read it, shifted, adjusted, a pattern, not instinct, training. Miguel took a solid blow to the jaw, then another to his ribs. He staggered back, vision swimming, and then Haruto whispered, "Cobra Kai taught you to fight. We refined it." Miguel froze, not because of what was said, but how. No accent, no formality. That voice, American. The bell rang. Round 3. Miguel shook the fog from his head. Haruto's form was perfect, but now Miguel saw the flaw. No heart, no anger, no improvisation, just programming. And programming could be broken. He changed tempo, moved unpredictably, feints that didn't make sense, footwork that broke rhythm. Haruto faltered, just a breath, and Miguel crashed through. Hook, hook, elbow, spinning sidekick. Haruto hit the ground, hard. Silence. Then, the referee raised Miguel's hand, but Miguel didn't smile. He walked over, knelt beside Haruto and said, "Where did you learn that voice?" Haruto, still dazed, didn't answer. But before the medics could carry him away, he muttered, "Kim didn't start this. She's just the flame. The spark came from back home." Miguel's stomach turned cold. Back in the fighters' hall, Tori listened as he told the others what Haruto had said. Dimitri frowned. "You think Cobra Kai has ties in the States again? Not just sympathizers, architects?" Tori nodded slowly. "We thought this tournament was the war." She looked to the courtyard below. "This is the smoke before the fire." Chapter 24, The Red Directive. Haruto was gone by morning. No medics, no report, no goodbye, just an empty bunk, and a folder left behind tucked under the mattress. Sam found it during warm-ups. No label, just a crimson stripe across the top, like a wound that hadn't closed. Inside were pages, diagrams, surveillance photos, names, and one symbol repeated across every page. RD Red Directive. They spread the contents across the stone floor. Dimitri scanned line by line. It's not just a list of fighters, it's a map, alliances, influence, payments. These are Cobra Kai loyalists, hidden ones. One page caught Miguel's eye. A photograph, black and white, grainy. A man in a suit shaking hands with Silver in the late 90s. Aaron Kreese. Johnny read the name, froze. "No relation," he muttered, "but I knew him." He sat down hard. "Aaron was a kid when I was fighting. Smart. Too smart. Got out early. Went corporate. Heard whispers he made big money off private security in the Middle East. Disappeared right after the dojo burned down." He pointed to a document stamped Red Directive. "This isn't just another branch of Cobra Kai. It's a foundation." Tori leaned closer. "Then they've been building it longer than we thought." At the bottom of one page, coordinates. A compound in the Sichuan Mountains. A name scratched beside it, Forge. Dimitri ran a cross-reference. "It's real. Not on maps, but it's there. No fly zone. Could be a front." Sam exhaled slowly. Then that's where they're making the next generation. Hawk cracked his knuckles. We burn it down. Johnny gave him a look. We get intel, then we burn it. That night, under cloudless stars, Tori stood alone on the balcony. She held the folder in her hands. Red directive. So many secrets. So many lies dressed up as legacy. And somewhere inside, a blueprint for the kind of warrior Kim Da-eun wanted to create. Not strong, obedient. Tori closed the folder. You want soldiers, she whispered. I'll give you one more fight. Chapter 25, Journey to the Forge. The decision was made before dawn. 2 paths, 2 risks. Johnny, Miguel, Hawk, and Tori would leave for the mountains. Sam, Dimitri, and Cho would remain in Hong Kong to compete and keep Cobra Kai's attention focused. They'll expect us to chase the prize, Tori said. Let's give them what they don't expect. The road to Sichuan was long and winding, cutting through mist-shrouded hills and silent valleys where time moved slower. They traveled light, no uniforms, no weapons, just instinct, memory, and the kind of trust forged in bruises. Johnny drove most of the way. He didn't speak much. His eyes stayed on the horizon. Whatever waited out there, it wasn't just a mission to him. It was something unfinished. By the 3rd day, they reached the coordinates. The forge wasn't a building. It was a fortress, built into the rock like it had been carved by nature. No flags, no insignia, just walls of stone and steel, cameras disguised as lanterns, and a silence that felt engineered. Tori's breath caught in her throat. It's not a dojo, Miguel nodded. It's a factory. They scouted the perimeter. Guards patrolled in pairs, unmarked. Not martial artists, mercenaries. Inside, through high windows, flickers of movement. Uniforms, children, training, but no emotion, just repetition. A boy maybe 12, sparring with precision that didn't belong in a child's bones. Tori looked away. At nightfall, they found a vent shaft near the southern ridge. Hawk popped the seal. 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out. No heroics. No fights, just confirmation. That was the plan. Until they heard a voice on the comms, not from inside their team, not from the forge either. It came from a hidden earpiece Hawk had found earlier, one that Haruto had dropped, and the voice said, "They're coming. Initiate Phase 3. Eliminate the LaRussos first." Tori froze. "Did you hear that?" Miguel's voice was a whisper. "They're targeting the tournament." Johnny didn't hesitate. "We split. Tori, Hawk, get inside. Get footage. Proof. Me and Miguel head back." Tori shook her head. "You can't make it in time?" "I'll try. You two, just don't get caught." Inside the forge, Hawk and Tori moved like ghosts. They passed a room full of screens, each one monitoring fighters from the Hong Kong tournament. Not just watching, analyzing, tagging, rating. A file on Sam LaRusso, another on Cho, one on Miguel, color-coded in red. Target level critical. In the main hall, they found a name. Not Silver, not Kim, but Aaron Kreese, face front and center on a digital roster. Underneath it, the title, Red Directive Alpha, Architect of Renewal. Hawk stared at the screen. No wonder this all feels like deja vu. Tori clenched her fists. They're not rebuilding Cobra Kai. She looked around. They're evolving it. Chapter 26, Fire in the Mountains. It started with a whisper of static. Then the lights flared red. Then came the alarm. Not a blaring siren. A cold, low hum that vibrated through the walls, like the heartbeat of a machine waking up. Tori and Hawk were already running. The digital roster vanished behind them as steel doors began to seal. Hawk ducked under one just before it slammed shut. Tori turned a corner, only to stop dead. Ahead stood 3 guards. Unarmed, but ready. They didn't speak, didn't yell, they charged. Tori moved first. Side kick to the chest, elbow to the jaw, spin away and reset. Hawk joined her, taking down the second with a sweep and back fist. But the third was faster, smarter. He locked Tori's wrist, spun her into the wall, pain sharp, radiating. She used it. Headbutt, knee, freedom. They sprinted through the halls, deeper into the complex. Cameras tracked them. A robotic voice announced, "Sector 3 breach. Phase lockdown initiated." Hawk muttered, "We should have brought Dimitri. He loves this sci-fi stuff." Tori didn't laugh. She was too busy memorizing every hall, every face, every lie this place was built on. Then exit ahead, steel hatch, no guards, but a sound. From the corridor behind, footsteps, heavy, and from around the corner came a figure dressed in black. Not a guard, not a soldier, a trainer, young, female, silent. Her Jai had no name, just one red symbol. RD, she attacked with vicious grace. No emotion, just precision. Tori caught the first blow, blocked the second, missed the third, spun and countered, but this girl was trained exactly the way she had once been trained. Only purer, less human, more threat. Hawk moved to help. The girl struck his leg, a pressure point. He dropped, gasping. Tori gritted her teeth. "You're not better than me." No reply, just movement. Tori ducked low, let the girl overcommit, then used her momentum. Judo throw, shoulder to stone, knee to neck. She held it there. The girl didn't blink, didn't resist. "Do it," she said. Tori paused, then stood. "No." "Because I'm not you," and she ran. They escaped through the southern ridge. Fire behind them. Real fire. One of the forges had sparked from the combat. Smoke now bloomed above the mountain like a signal. Miguel saw it from the road, and Johnny knew what it meant. By nightfall, they were back at the edge of the city. Battered, quiet. Tori held up a drive. "Footage, files, we've got proof." Miguel looked past her. "What happened in there?" She didn't answer, because she wasn't sure yet. But the fire, it had only just begun. Chapter 27, The Strike Before the Storm. The tournament arena gleamed under artificial lights, but beneath the surface, something had shifted. Security doubled. Fewer smiles, more whispers. Sam noticed it first. Fighters disappearing between rounds, returning quieter, colder. Cho nodded toward one of the black vans idling in the distance. No markings, no plates, but the same vans were at the forge. Dimitri checked the schedule. The final brackets were changed this morning, without announcement. When Johnny, Miguel, Hawk, and Tori returned, the reunion was brief. Too many eyes, too little time. Tori handed the drive to Cho. Encrypted footage, surveillance logs, roster lists, all of it. Cho plugged it into his laptop behind the bleachers. His face paled as he read the decrypted header. Red directive, Omega initialization tournament phase. Dimitri skimmed the document. "It's not about recruiting. It's not even about testing fighters." Miguel frowned. "Then what?" Dimitri swallowed. "It's about replacing them." Meanwhile, Tori sat alone, still thinking of the silent girl in the forge. Her movements, her stillness. She had seen herself in that girl, the version she might have become if she'd never walked away. And yet, something deeper rattled her now. That girl hadn't been alone, there had been others. At the same time, in a private suite above the arena, someone else watched. Aaron Kreese. He stood behind tinted glass, arms folded, face unreadable. Beside him, a man in a gray suit, whispering updates. "The footage leak is being traced." Kreese nodded. "Contain it." The man hesitated. "We believe the girl, Tori Nichols, has seen the alpha units." Kreese looked down at the arena, where Tori paced the sidelines. "Then it's time she's tested. Let's see how much of Cobra Kai still lives in her." That night, Cho returned to the group with bad news. "You've been pulled from the bracket," he told Miguel. "What?" "You're not officially banned, but they've shifted the pairings. You've been assigned to exhibition matches. No scoring." Johnny scowled. "They're trying to take him out without disqualifying him." Hawk leaned against the wall. "Who's still in?" Sam raised her hand. "Me," and then Tori. Her name was still there, paired for a final match against a last-minute wildcard entry. No photo, just initials. RD. Chapter 28. The wildcard match. The arena had gone quiet. Even before the announcer spoke, something in the air shifted. A tension. A waiting. Tori stood behind the divider, taping her hands. Her heartbeat was steady, trained. But inside, she felt it building. That other kind of instinct, the one she hadn't relied on since Kreese left, survival mode. The announcer's voice boomed across the crowd. "In this special late-stage wildcard exhibition, Tori Nichols of California faces an unknown challenger, representing an unaffiliated school. Designation RD, no fanfare, no video montage, just silence." Then the challenger stepped out. Tall, masked, no expression, and wearing the same symbol Tori had seen back at the forge, red and sharp on a black jai. Tori's jaw clenched. It's her. Not the same girl from the forge, but another like her. Same build, same expressionless stance. A weapon made human. The crowd murmured, confused, interested, but Tori heard none of it. The bell rang, and the girl moved, faster than most fighters in the tournament. No warm-up, no feinting, just impact. Tori barely blocked the first two strikes. The third caught her ribs, hard enough to bruise. Then came a sweep, a rising kick. It was familiar, too familiar. Tori spun out, regained her balance, eyes narrowing. "You copy moves?" The girl didn't answer, just attacked again, this time using a variation of Sam's style. Tori recognized it, down to the footwork. She's been programmed with our fights. Blow after blow, the match escalated, and Tori stopped fighting to win. She started fighting to understand, because each move from the girl was like a shadow of someone she knew. Hawk's aggression, Sam's speed, Miguel's agility, but empty, sterile. And then the girl whispered something mid-grapple, "You are the deviation." Tori froze for half a second. What? The girl's eyes flashed red, not literally, just something behind them. "You left the order. That makes you unstable." Tori snapped. A spinning elbow cracked the girl's jaw. A sweep took her to the mat, but she rolled, flipped back, and went for the throat. Tori countered with a knee. Hard, brutal, direct. Impact. For the first time, the girl faltered. She backed off. The ref started to call the match. But Tori stepped forward, breath ragged. "Who made you?" The girl looked at her, then tilted her head and whispered, "You did." The ref ended the match, declared no winner. "Too dangerous," he said. But Tori knew better. This hadn't been about victory. It had been about sending a message, and the message was clear. Red Directive wasn't copying them. It was replacing them. Chapter 29, Fractures and Foundations. Silence filled the locker room. Not the comfortable kind, the kind that sets in when something fundamental has shifted. Tori sat on the bench, unwrapping her fists. Her knuckles ached, her ribs throbbed. But it wasn't the bruises that unsettled her. It was the words. "You are the deviation." They echoed. Miguel sat across from her, brow furrowed. "She said what?" Tori nodded. "She wasn't just mimicking us. She knew things. Things I've only ever said during training. Private sessions. Spars with Kreese." Sam's voice was colder than usual. "So she's not just a fighter. She's a file system." Hawk cracked his knuckles. "How the hell do they have all this footage?" Dimitri answered quietly from the corner. "They've been watching us longer than we thought, since before Cobra Kai fell." He turned his laptop around. The decrypted folder Tori gave them was full of logs, dates, footage, medical scans, training patterns, even recordings from Mr. Miyagi's backyard. Johnny slammed his fist on the table. "They were in our dojo? They were everywhere," Cho muttered. "This isn't just surveillance. It's a cloning process." Miguel stood, anger surfacing. "What do they want? Why build fighters that mimic us?" Dimitri hesitated. "Because we're the test subjects, and someone out there thinks we're obsolete." Later that night, Cho showed them the updated brackets. The finals were locked. Sam was matched with a South Korean prodigy from a dojo sponsored by Horizon, one of Red Directive's corporate fronts. Hawk was against a mystery entrant with no listed dojo and no background file. "That's a plant," Johnny said. "A setup." Dimitri nodded. "But we don't know their endgame. It's not just winning." Tori leaned over the monitor. "They're not here to win. They're here to recruit or remove." At 3 a.m., Cho was gone. His phone, his laptop, gone. The security footage showed him walking into a black van outside the hotel. He didn't resist. He just walked in. By morning, paranoia had seeped into the group. Sam confronted Tori in the courtyard. "You sure it wasn't a trap?" "What? You came back from that forge with one drive, and now Cho's gone." "Maybe this was all planned." Tori stepped closer, jaw tight. "Say what you mean, LaRusso." Sam didn't flinch. "Maybe you were the test subject from the start." Johnny broke them apart before fists flew. But the damage had already begun. A fracture. One that would only grow. In the distance, storm clouds gathered over the mountains. The final matches were just days away. But the real battle was already in motion, and the team was no longer whole. Chapter 30, The Kidnapped Code. The message came through at 4:17 a.m., a text, untraceable, encrypted in a way only Dimitri recognized. "If you're reading this, I'm compromised. They took me, but I left a failsafe. Trust no one inside the tournament system. Project Omega is already live. You were never here to win. You were here to be copied." See, Tori stood at Dimitri's shoulder as he read it aloud. Miguel rubbed his face. "Project Omega? Is that what they called the cloning system?" "No," Dimitri said slowly. "It's not just the fighters anymore. I think it's the next phase, something beyond replacements." They scrambled into action. Dimitri and Hawk searched Cho's hotel room. Empty, except for a single hard drive tucked behind the mirror. Sam and Miguel went to the security booth. Every camera after 3:02 a.m. had been wiped. Not overwritten, physically removed. Tori stared at the tournament tower in the distance. Each window gleamed. Each one could be watching them. Back at their room, Dimitri plugged in the hard drive. An interface popped up, simple, stark, Project Omega Phase Integration. Subjects 17 status 13 complete 4 active resistance. Miguel read aloud. Active resistance? That's us. Dimitri nodded. They've already copied 13 fighters, full neural mirroring, meaning there's 13 versions of us walking around with our fighting instincts, but none of our conscience. Sam leaned in, eyes narrowed. Then what's integration? Dimitri clicked on the term. A file opened, footage, from the forge. Tori gasped. She saw herself, standing still, but not her. Not quite. This Tori's movements were perfect, empty, no hesitation. That's not me, she whispered, and beside her, another version of Hawk, a Sam, even a Miguel, all standing, all waiting. They've already built us, Dimitri said. This tournament is the last test. Suddenly, another message blinked across the screen. A live feed. Cho's face appeared. He looked pale, eyes red-rimmed, but he spoke clearly. They've started Phase 2. You need to get out. If you're seeing this, the integration zone is here, inside the arena. The final matches aren't matches, they're activations. They want to replace you in real time. Win, and you're erased. Lose, and you're erased slower. Static crackled. They don't need your victory, they just need your audience. The feed cut. The room was silent. Sam broke it. We can't run. Miguel nodded. They'd follow us, copy us again. Tori looked at the screen. Then we end it here. Chapter 31, Mirror Matches. The arena lights blazed like artificial suns. The crowd roared, oblivious. To them, it was just the final rounds of the Sekai Taikai, the world's greatest martial arts showcase. To Tori and her team, it was the beginning of a digital war. A war for identity, a war for survival. The announcer's voice echoed, coming up, a series of unscheduled wildcard bouts to determine the final rankings. Fighters, report to the staging floor immediately. No names, no brackets, just shadow matches. Dimitri confirmed it from the terminal backstage. Their names were already slotted, not against each other, but against copies. They've built this to look like exhibition matches, one-on-one, but the audience won't see the difference. Hawk smirked darkly. So when I get drop-kicked by Robo-Hawk, the fans just think it's me having a bad day. Tori cracked her neck. Not if we win. Miguel frowned. What does winning even mean anymore? No one answered. Chapter 31, Mirror Matches. The arena lights blazed like artificial suns. The crowd roared, oblivious. To them, it was just the final rounds of the Sekai Taikai, the world's greatest martial arts showcase. To Tori and her team, it was the beginning of a digital war. A war for identity, a war for survival. The announcer's voice echoed, coming up, a series of unscheduled wildcard bouts to determine the final rankings. Fighters, report to the staging floor immediately. No names, no brackets, just shadow matches. Dimitri confirmed it from the terminal backstage. Their names were already slotted, not against each other, but against copies. They've built this to look like exhibition matches, one-on-one, but the audience won't see the difference. Hawk smirked darkly. So when I get drop-kicked by Robo-Hawk, the fans just think it's me having a bad day. Tori cracked her neck. Not if we win. Miguel frowned. What does winning even mean anymore? No one answered. Match 1, Hawk versus Hawk. The original stepped into the ring. His clone was already there, pacing like a caged predator. The GI was identical. The mohawk perfect. Even the smirk mirrored. But the eyes, dead. The bell rang, and hell broke loose. Tori watched from backstage as Hawk fought harder than she'd ever seen him. The clone moved faster, more efficient, calculated. But it didn't improvise. Hawk did. When his shoulder was dislocated, he popped it back in mid-roll. When the clone dodged 3 high kicks, Hawk feinted low, then tackled it through a support beam. He didn't win pretty, but he won real. Match 2, Samantha LaRusso versus Sam Prime. This fight was colder, precise. The clone mimicked her kata down to the blink. But Sam, she adapted, slowed down, changed her rhythm, fought with flow instead of fire. Then she did something unexpected. She dropped her guard. Open stance. The clone paused, confused. You don't have instinct, Sam whispered. You just have input. 1 sweep, 1 elbow, 1 knee to the head. Down. Match 3, Miguel versus Shadow Miguel. This was the hardest. Not because of the moves, because of the heart. Tori watched as Miguel hesitated again and again. Every punch reminded him of who he was and what could be taken. In the end, he didn't outfight the clone. He outlived it, burned it out, made it chase emotions it couldn't replicate. He beat it with his humanity. Then it was Tori's turn. The final shadow match. Her opponent? The girl from the forge. The one who whispered, "You are the deviation." Only now she wasn't in disguise. She was labeled on the screen as Tori.02. The crowd thought it was a rematch. The announcers spun it as internal rivalry. But Tori knew better. This was her deletion script, her erasure. The bell rang. They didn't touch gloves. They collided like fate and fury. Chapter 32, The Last Punch, written in blood. Tori had never feared her own face before. But now, staring across the ring at Tori.2, she felt something deep, an unease that went beyond combat. It was the way the clone moved. No swagger, no rage, just purpose and precision. The bell rang. The first clash was lightning. Tori.2 launched forward, fists flying in perfect combinations, Cobra Kai drills layered with Miyagi-Do footwork. Tori absorbed the first hits, dancing back. She wasn't just fighting herself. She was fighting her mistakes, her rage, her past. Tori Nichols fights with emotion, Cho once told her. That's her greatest strength and her greatest flaw. Now that flaw was being used against her. Tori.2 didn't flinch, didn't grunt, didn't think, just attacked. Tori hit the floor. She rolled, popped up, staggered. The crowd cheered like it was all part of the show. But Tori knew, one more fall and the real her might disappear. Kreese's voice. Don't hesitate. Pain is just data. Fear is weakness leaving the body. She let that voice go, replaced it with another. Mr. LaRusso's words from the one time they spoke alone. You're not broken, you're building, piece by piece. She stood, blood in her mouth, but her feet were steady. The clone lunged, textbook high roundhouse to sweep combo. Tori caught it midair. You know everything I've done, she whispered, but not everything I've felt. She slammed the clone down, drove a fist into its chest, another and another until it stopped moving. Silence, then applause. The crowd believed they'd seen an incredible match. No one knew what had really happened, except her team and the people watching from behind the curtain. After the fight, Tori didn't celebrate. She sat alone, hands shaking, not from fear, from the understanding that she hadn't just saved herself. She had claimed herself, all of her, anger, doubt, heart. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't fighting who she was. In the hallway, Robbie found her. He knelt beside her, not saying anything, just sat. After a moment, she looked at him. I'm not a clone, he smiled. Never were. Chapter 33, Omega Unleashed. The arena lights shifted from white to red. Sirens didn't sound, but the silence changed. Every screen flickered. Every spotlight swung inward to the center where no fighter stood. Not yet. They've launched it, the final phase. Sam stepped beside him. What did they do? Dimitri swallowed. His hands were shaking. They made a fusion. He tapped the screen. A digital readout appeared. Omega Protocol initiated. Substrate composition, multi-entity composite base, code Tori.02, Miguel.01, Sam.01, Cho, neural integration 87% emotional drift detected, status unstable. In the center of the arena, the floor split open, a platform rose. And from the haze of smoke, it emerged, not male, not female, not robotic, not human, just designed. Its skin shifted like liquid chrome but bore scars, imitations of every fighter it copied. One half of its face was Tori's, the other, unformed. Its voice spoke in fragments. I am Omega, purpose, replacement, directive, execute, deviation, target, Tori. The crowd cheered, believing it was all part of the final act. A grand show, a new tournament champion revealed. But Tori knew the truth. It's not a fight, she said quietly. It's a purge. Dimitri tried to override the system from backstage, but Omega's code firewalled everything. It's rewriting the arena AI in real time, he said. There are no rules anymore. Robbie grabbed Tori's arm. We don't have to go out there. There's got to be another way. Tori met his eyes. Yes, there is. She turned to the others. You all helped me become who I am, but this thing was made from my worst parts. She stepped into the tunnel toward the stage. So I'm going to end it myself. The stadium lights followed her. The crowd stood. Miguel whispered, don't let it make you forget who you are. Tori didn't look back. I won't. She entered the ring. Omega tilted its head, scanning her. Then it whispered, original detected, soul signal active, anomaly, free will. Tori cracked her knuckles. Yeah, that's going to be your problem. The final bell rang. The Omega Protocol began. Chapter 34, Break the Code. The arena had transformed. No longer a stage for competition, it was a digital crucible, glowing red with synthetic rage. Omega struck first. Faster than light. Tori ducked under a spinning roundhouse, barely escaping the arc of a blade that hadn't existed a second earlier, a conjured memory from Cho's fighting style. "It's pulling techniques from everyone," she muttered. Omega's body shimmered. One moment, its stance was pure eagle fang, explosive, reckless. The next, it transitioned into quiet Miyagi-Do precision. Every style, every move, none of the soul. Backstage, Dimitri's fingers flew across the stolen control panel. Okay, I think I've found it. There's a backup of Tori's tournament entry, video motion capture, emotional telemetry. Sam leaned in. Emotional telemetry? Don't ask, but if we inject it into the arena feed, maybe, just maybe, we can destabilize Omega. Hawk squinted. So we're going to emotionally confuse a killer robot? Dimitri nodded grimly. Basically, yeah. In the ring, Tori was losing ground. Omega adapted faster than she could breathe. Every strike she threw, it absorbed and evolved. It fought like her, but without fear, fatigue, or hesitation. She landed a gut punch, and its ribs shifted, absorbed the blow, then locked her wrist. It spoke in her own voice. "Your pain is inefficient," and it threw her across the ring. Her body hit the mat hard, vision blurred, something cracked. She tasted blood and memories. Her brother screaming in a hospital room, her mother's bills stacked like tombstones, the silence after Cobra Kai's first fall. And then, a hand extended. Robbie, another, Sam, Miguel, even Johnny. "You were never alone," a voice whispered inside her. She stood up, shaking, alive. "Dimitri, now!" Sam shouted. Dimitri hit enter. The file injected. All screens across the arena lit up, not with stats or scores, but moments. Clips of Tori sparring, laughing, failing, trying again. The night she apologized to Sam, the morning she left Cobra Kai for good, every choice she'd made, every feeling she'd owned. Omega stopped, its body spasmed, one eye flickered. Corruption detected, identity loop, what am I? Tori stepped forward, her breathing ragged. "You're a mistake, and I'm the proof." She launched, one final strike, elbow to the core. Omega shattered in a scream of broken voices. Light and data exploded outward, blinding the crowd. When it cleared, only Tori remained, standing. Chapter 35, Echoes and Ashes. The arena was quiet now. No music, no lights, just smoke dissipating beneath shattered spotlights and a silence that pressed like fog. Tori stood in the center, bruised, bloodied, barely breathing, but whole. All eyes were on her, but she wasn't looking at them. She was staring at what remained of Omega, fragments of synthetic skin and shuddering circuits, twitching with dying sparks. A machine designed to copy everything about her had failed to understand anything real. It died not because she was stronger, but because she was human. Backstage, the team rushed in. Robbie reached her first, wrapping her in a quiet, fierce hug. Sam and Miguel followed, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, they weren't competitors or exes or rivals. They were people. People who had survived something that couldn't be explained with medals or trophies. Dimitri wiped his glasses. "We should leave, before someone tries to make a sequel out of this." Later, in a quiet hallway far from the echoing crowd, Tori sat alone again. Not in shame, not in pain, in stillness. A figure approached. Zara Malik, the woman who had once tempted her with fame, performance, glory. Zara offered no smile. "They'll want to interview you, maybe offer a contract again. You could be global in 6 months. Tori looked up, expression unreadable. "No." Zara raised a brow. "No? I'm done being someone else's weapon." Zara hesitated, then nodded. "Then write your own legacy." She turned and walked away. That night, Tori didn't sleep. She stood on the hotel balcony, watching stars emerge above a city that still didn't know what had really happened. A city that cheered for shadows. She didn't need their cheers. She had something better. A future not written by someone else. At sunrise, she left a message for Robbie. Gone for a while. Not running, just breathing. "Find me when you're ready to build something real." She stepped onto the first train leaving Tokyo, a duffel on her back, her fists in her pockets, and peace, finally, in her chest. Epilogue, quiet strength. Months passed, the headlines moved on, the tournament was archived. Omega's existence never confirmed. Officially, it was all part of the show. Unofficially, those who mattered remembered what really happened. Tori Nichols became a name spoken in hushed tones, not for infamy, for something rarer, survival. A dojo opened on the outskirts of Kyoto. Small, remote, no signage, just a sliding wooden door. Inside, silence, sweat, and one teacher. She didn't speak unless she had something worth saying. She taught balance before strikes, control before rage. and her students, misfits, wanderers, fighters without purpose, found something they hadn't known they needed: home. One evening, a visitor arrived. No bags, no words, just a tired, familiar grin. Robbie stepped into the doorway, silhouetted by the setting sun. Tori didn't rise. She didn't need to. "Took you long enough," she said. He smiled. "Wasn't sure you'd still be here." "Me either." He entered. The door slid shut behind them, and in the quiet that followed, a new chapter began.